MenScape, the podcast with Carl.J. Ashley.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the first episode of the MenScape podcast, sponsored by The Right Coach today. There you go. If you have, I suppose, a story to tell, the philosophy of The Right Coach is everyone has a story to tell, and get in touch on www.rightcoach.ie. If you ever thought about writing a book but didn't know where to start, or just want help writing a book. So on to today, and we have Mr. Dave Sheahan. Good afternoon, and how are you?
How are we doing, Carl? Great to be here, especially on the first episode. I'm truly honored. I must be very special altogether.
Thanks for being the guinea pig for the first MenScape podcast. Hopefully we're going to do a few, and when we get the likes of Mike Tyson and Kevin De Bruyne, you can tell them you were here first. How's that?
Exactly. They'll be honored to be on the same podcast as me, I'd say.
So first things first, tell us a bit about yourself.
Okay, so who am I? I call myself like a high performance consultant, which means I work with people on becoming the best they can be, and especially working with a foundation of mind, body, and health.
Very
because
good.
That whole area is the most important area. For me, it is in terms of what I feel it will do to people's lives, because when you've control of mind, body, and health, it positively impacts every other area of your life. And I've basically been dedicated for over 25 years now to educating, motivating, and hopefully inspiring people to be the best version of themselves. And every day for me is like trying to make a positive impact on others. So, it all came from my own journey as a kid, 17, hating myself, wanting to kill myself, but outwardly putting a totally different face on, but rescuing myself basically from all that darkness over the course of a few years. And it was getting control of my mind and my body, better health, that type of thing that saved me. So I suppose it gave me a mission to do the same for others. So I hope I do that. That's what I live every day for, basically.
Very good. That sounds hugely inspirational.
I do my best. And I do my best to be a good role model too. I pride myself in being very authentic. Like what I put out there, what you see is what you get. There's no bullshit. There's no fluff. There's no fake images on Instagram.
This is how it is.
Yeah, if I have a crap day, I'm telling you I have a crap day. If I have a good day, I tell you I have a good day. So it is what it is. And that's something we need more and more in this world, especially with social media, because there's so much fakeness out there.
So what you're saying is when you were a young fella and you were tearing around after young ones and you met one in the pub one night and then you woke up in the morning next to her and she weren't the same looking as what you met the night before. What you're saying is you look the same in the morning as what you do the night before.
Always, of course. Have to be authentic no matter what time of the day it is.
I watched a fantastic video, again, Dr. Gabor Mate, for anyone that's not heard of him, highly recommended in the field of sort of childhood trauma, family trauma, addictions, and so on. And he talks of the approval versus authenticity conflict that we come across, especially in adulthood as we develop. If you have a need for attachment when you're young, it's natural to sacrifice authenticity. Like, Mom, I want to wear the clothes. Oh, I want to do this. I want to do that. No. You're like 6, 7, 8. You rely on your parents for survival. So you do as you're told, But growing into adulthood, the conflict emerges if you don't step into authenticity. So it's huge to embrace that element of being who you are. You can't be anyone else. And you need your own approval, not the approval of others. And once you step into that, there's no going back.
Totally, it's embracing who you are, because look, we're all unique. Like you're you, I'm me, any of the listeners are them. Unfortunately, most people don't live true to themselves. They live, again, society's conditioned version of who they are and what expects who they are. But the reality is, like, if you're not being true to yourself, you can't ever truly be happy. This is why if you do embrace who you are and do self-love, it's like a superpower. Like it truly is. If you're truly who you are, it is honestly a superpower. You know that yourself too, so I know you're very much authentic to yourself as well. This is what people need to move towards, and they're not. Instead of being just the same as every bloody other person in society because you're afraid of being different, be bloody different and embrace being different, because everyone is different in their own way.
Yeah, you are unique.
Exactly, all of us are.
So when you have obviously been on a journey towards becoming who you are now, and you can hold yourself up as a role model, you can be inspirational, you can be, I suppose motivation is when it comes from outside. Being inspired is when it comes from inside. There's a clue in the word inspired. So when you're inspired and you're motivated, Like if you're motivating others, who or what motivates you?
It's a drive for me. There's two things that really motivate me, like, and get me up in the morning. One is to be a good role model to my son, because I take it very seriously being a good dad, be a good role model to him. And any parent at the end of the day is forming that child. So I take that very seriously, and I want to be a good role model and let him see what I feel is the way you should live and the way you should act and behave and authentic and be who he is. The other thing is I do feel my actual purpose here, like, is genuinely to help others and make a positive impact. So even on days I feel like shit and I don't want to even get out of bed and just having a bad day where the mental demons are killing me, what gets me going, apart from my son, is that I have other people who follow me, and if I put a post up, it may just spark one of them to have a better day, to have, to do something that they should, to stay away from something they shouldn't do. And that alone gives me the spark. So it's kind of, I suppose, a service to others, which I feel is my purpose here.
Absolutely. Service to others is important, but come here. I'm going to take you to task on using this word should.
Oh yeah.
I remember reading in a book that changed my life was Wayne Dyer. And there was a chapter in there, and he said, look, try and skillfully treat it as a skillful practice to replace the word should with could or would, for the simple reason that it implies guilt, shame, or blame. So when you say that you want to be a positive role model, yeah, I'm all for that. But when you say, I want my son to see what should this, well, who's to say what should anything? What, totally. Like, where's that coming from?
Yeah, no, 100%. That's an important shift. Remember you pointed out a while ago, and it's actually a hard thing to change. It's just like, it's like just most the word, things, yeah. But it's just like the words, but the way behind it. You could
get up at 6 o'clock in the morning. You could sacrifice that extra hour in bed for doing a run, but nobody says that you should.
Yeah, everything is could, not should. Whatever reason, it's the word should that comes to us. Again, is that just the way I've grown to speak, or is it what I've read, or is it conditioning? Who knows? But again, that's a shift since you first pointed out to me. Probably it's about 6 months ago, I'd say. And it's could is the illogical, and it's the actual right word. Should is not the right word. 100% with you on that.
Yeah, and so when you have, say, your self-talk, you know about the benefits of positive self-talk, being a motivator and being motivated. That inner voice, as a writer, I always was like, this inner voice was critical of me. It was critical. And I don't know if it was going back to my childhood and hearing it from my mother, who was critical towards me, or other people, other kids bullying me or being unkind or whatever. But somehow or somewhere, I picked up this hugely self-critical inner voice. Yeah. And I had to unlearn it. I had to sort of look in the mirror and say, no, I'm fucking awesome, man. I deserve to be happy. I am me. And actually retrain or unlearn some positive self-talk.
It's totally that. It's relearning, because the thing is, like, we're conditioned by our environment. So from the second we're born, basically, what our parents are like and their beliefs, what they do, what they impress upon us, we're seeing. Everyone else that comes into our life the same. When we go to kindergarten, if we go there, when we go to school, everything we're exposed to, we're being conditioned by it, and we take it in. So like that forms us. And like that, if you're in an environment where you've been told you're not good at stuff, you're useless, you're not this, you're not that, you're ugly, or whatever it might be, that's what you grew up to believe. And this is where it is literally retraining yourself to think the way you should, and to, again, embrace who you are, whatever it may be. And it is a retraining it. And I suppose that's why so few people are properly authentic or properly true to themselves, because it is a hard process to go through, and it's also a hard thing to even face up to being a reality.
But also, I mean, that's all okay for you, but you can't then say that other people should be doing that, because their journey might be something else. Their journey might be unlearning something else. So they're like, obviously we might recommend they step into authenticity, but they might be here incarnated on earth in this journey, in this lifetime, for some other purpose altogether. So we can't go as far as ascribing or prescribing what others should necessarily do. All we can do is say that our own light shine, be the best version of ourselves that we can be. And if that rubs off on others, then so be it.
Yeah, and that's where, again, each person themselves individually, they would just inherently know what is right for them. Who are they? By their gut, their intuition, their soul, how they feel. And this is where everyone has to step into that. Like I said, with the light, we have to be lights. Like, you've a lot of light.
As I say that,
right
the
now.
sun's
exactly.
The sun's bright. We've gone from a storm to the trees bending over to now glorious sunshine here remotely from a field in Tipperary. It's fantastic.
I know, it's mad. But yeah, look, just the most important message we can give to anybody ever is, you know, to do your best to tune into who you really are. And only us ourselves can ever really know that. Others can have an opinion or, you know, give advice or have ideas, but we are the only ones who truly know who we are.
Okay. I've got a 1 minute quick fire round for you.
Okay.
No pressure.
Let's see what you're throwing at me.
Have you ever written a book?
Yes. Is this yes, just yes or no, right?
Yeah, just yes or no will do for this.
Okay.
We can go into a little bit more depth afterwards. Have you written a book? Yes.
Yes.
Have you driven a Ferrari?
No, wish I had.
Have you jumped out of a plane?
No, another thing I need to do on my bucket list.
Rode a horse?
No.
Have you cheated death?
In a way.
Have you children? You've already answered about your son,
Yeah.
so that we'll
Yeah,
take that
son,
as a yes.
Yeah.
Have you been abroad? You mentioned Lanzarote, so that's again a yes.
Lots of times, lots of travel.
Have you ever eaten an insect?
Probably by accident. Lots of times by accident, probably.
Have you ever walked on hot coals?
I have. Great experience.
Wow. Have you ever done public speaking?
Lots of it, yeah. Love it.
What was your best Joe Rogan podcast? We were chatting about Joe Rogan earlier.
My favorite one has to be, I just love David Goggins, and himself and David Goggins are amazing combo. David Goggins is just, if you need motivation anytime, he's the man.
Goggins sounds like a Limerick name. I met Limerick people called Goggins.
Yeah.
Is it true?
I haven't heard of many. This guy definitely is not from Limerick anyway.
Who is he? Tell me more about him.
David Goggins. He's a former Marine and all the different elements of like the US service and stuff. And
yeah,
he's the only guy who completed 3 hell weeks. Usually people do 1 in their lifetime. He did 3 in a year. This guy, like, it's like he feels no pain. He has no boundaries. Like from a mindset point of view, it's pretty incredible. Very inspiring.
It's easy not to feel any pain. You just need to have something switched off in your brain where the neural circuits don't respond. There was a famous case of a girl who in England, I think it was in the 80s or the 90s, there was a famous public shooting, Hungerford they called it, and she went to her mummy and she said, "Mummy, have I been shot?" And she was looking down at her body and seeing sort of blood, and they had to take her, and she just didn't have pain receptors. She couldn't feel any pain. Which might sound like a good thing, but it's hugely dangerous because of you need it as a survival mechanism.
Yeah, for sure. And even the level that we'll feel pain is determined by as well the way we're thinking as well. You know, like if you think about it, say if someone gets hurt, say if you fall or something, and you just kind of get on with it, you're fine. A couple hours later, then you can look at your leg, could be a big bloody gash in it. All of a sudden, you're feeling pain. I've even had this myself. That's something I found interesting at various times in my life. To kind of, when we think something hasn't happened, we're cool with it, but then we suddenly see bloody blood or a cut, we've immense pain. So, you know, this where again, like our mind is just so powerful. Like we have no clue how powerful it is.
That's something I'd like to talk about a little. The fact that we do, upon reflection, seem to create our own reality. The power of the mind. We're all master manifestors here in this 3D reality. And I think it was a famous quote by Henry Ford: "If you can, or if you can't, if you believe you can, or you believe you can't, you're right."
Exactly.
So if you tell yourself that you're going to do it, you're going to do it.
Yeah.
And so if anyone ever says, you know, "Oh, hopefully we'll get around to doing this," "Oh yeah, I might try that," straight away, they're telling you it's going to fail.
Yeah. Never use the word try. Like to try is the worst word.
If you're going to try, so in the language that we use reflects the mind state and the mentality, and that's all something like you as a coach can help people work on the self-talk, the language, and the mindset, right?
Yeah, it's like the try word. Like try for me, basically, I've always said is pretty much it's justifying the lack of action you're going to do, but you showed intention you were going to do it. So that's cool. But you're never going to, once you said try, you're never going to do anything with it. But you've shown intention that you would like to do it. So it makes people feel okay. But people are trying to do everything their whole lives, and they just end up having mediocre existence that they regret. They live, at the end of their days, they're full of regret. So when people use try, I always tell them, like, wipe out that word. Like I can and I will. It's like Henry Ford said.
So we've got should, we've got should, and we've got try eliminated from our vocabulary so far. But another question for you.
What if there's another one?
I want you to plug yourself for a minute, who would be your typical client? Who would be an ideal client, and how can they get in touch with you or find out where you are?
Typical client would be someone who genuinely wants to make a difference in their life, whatever area it is, it doesn't matter. Like, but they're truly committed to making a difference, because everyone wants better, but not many want it enough. So that's one thing. I don't like work with people who are not, that interested, just kind of, they want it, but not want enough. And I've sacked clients many times over the years because of that. And willing to learn, willing to work as a team. I always say to people, we work as a team. It's not me telling you what to do. I advise them what I think should be done or could be done.
Hey, there we go.
So it could be done. And then we decide together what will be done. What's the positive step in the right direction? And we build a lifestyle in whatever it is you're trying to achieve in your life. So like, that's the biggest thing for me.
So are you talking like, if I want to give up smoking or I want to lose weight, are you talking?
Yeah, like, at this stage I've worked with every kind. Like when I started off 20 something years ago, I was in fitness mainly. Now I work with people, fitness, nutrition, jobs, bullying, writing even books, all that kind of stuff. Every kind of aspect, people working online, people with different issues, addictions, all kinds of stuff. Because at the end of the day, you're in a place you're not happy with. You want to move to a place of happiness. How do I move there? And there's various ingredients to it. So, to work with people and where they are now to where they want to get to. And usually what people come to me for, a lot of time is not the issue. We usually have to tackle some subconscious issues that are the real issue. And then once we get rid of those blockers, then we can move on to the stuff that they thought was important.
So removing blocks.
Hugely. Subconscious blocks.
Overcoming difficulties.
Yeah, chains to the past is a big one. It's like we touched on trauma. People have had lots of trauma. Everyone's had trauma to some degree.
Sure.
And it's all relative. One person might think one thing's horrific, another person might think it's not that horrific. But how it affects you is the important thing. And, we live in a world where the drive to achieve this supposed bar, like to get to this bar, is incessant. And society is creating this bar that's not even attainable. People don't even know what happiness actually means to them. They're going by what society tells them happiness and success is, which for most people is not what it actually would be. So it's guaranteeing a life of unhappiness and lack of fulfillment for most people, because they're not going to get to this bar. Like to the keeping up with the Joneses thing. This is why, again, it comes back to tune into who you are, what you want, what's the kind of life you want to have.
Yeah, again, like the world's full of those people. Like, so a typical client for you, you've obviously homed in or sort of narrowed it down to a demographic of some kind, or do you work with people from all different walks of life? I've
worked from 4 years of age up to 90 years of age, every kind of demographic, every type of belief. The main thing is that person is open to change. I suppose that's the most important thing. They're open to change, willing to work, committed to working, like I said, as a team, and that they truly want to change.
And do you have a website or a Facebook page?
Yeah, like I'm across all social media, just search for my name, but the website then is davesheahanhighperformance.com.
Okay.
So all the details on that too.
Are you available? Can you absorb more clients? Are you flat out
like
busy or?
Yeah, like look, I'm busy all the time with different things. So I'm always interested in taking on the right new clients. So anyone who'd be interested in anything, just contact me. We'll chat through what it is you're looking to do, see if it's a right fit. See if I'm a right fit for you just as much as you're a right fit for me. And if it is, let's go. And if, again, both parties are doing their job, we're going to get where you want to get to, basically, or where where you potentially need to get to.
Okay. What's your favorite song and why?
It's a hard one. I think I'd go with the one that you said, simply the best. I suppose it's a motto or mantra I try to live my life by. I've always believed in aiming to be the best of what I do. And that's another thing that kind of drives me on. And I like it. And we touched earlier about Eubank and that. Like I used to love when he came into that song. I wasn't necessarily a big fan of him, but I was a big fan of the song. So I think simply the best.
Yeah, that was a big deal in yesteryear, the Ben Eubank fight. So I was never really hugely into fighting as a kind of a Buddhist and a pacifist, but I would have spent time with my brother and my dad, where we used to hang out in a few different locals in and around Wakefield. Invariably, you'd have these, and the pubs would be full; they'd be packed to the rafters. And
big time,
I have nothing in common with either Ben or Eubank, but I got caught up in it all. And
I was the same. I was never big into boxing. It would have had a bit of interest, but I was never big.
That was his intro song, was it?
Yeah. But that was epic, like that series, the two of them fighting together. It was just sad how it ended, like, of course, but it was an epic, like, it was a trilogy or whatever it was.
Yeah.
I remember that.
What's the best book you've ever read and why?
The hard one because I read so many bloody books. I think for anyone, especially anyone who wants to be
tell you
self-employed.
what, I'll make it easy for you. Narrow it down to 3.
Okay. But one book I think anyone who's self-employed or wants to be self-employed should read would be The E-Myth, because a lot of people who become self-employed become their own best employees, which is what they're actually trying to move away from. You want to work on the business, not completely in the business. So The E-Myth is a really good E-Myth by
Spell
Michael.
that.
E and then like hyphen MYTH.
Oh, M-Y. Oh, The E-Myth.
E-Myth, yeah.
And it's about self-employment.
It applies to that if someone's ever wanting to be self-employed, because most self-employed people become their best employees, basically just become slaves to their own business instead of someone else's business. So the reason you go self-employed is, one, to live your passion, hopefully, but most importantly, to get time freedom. Most self-employed don't have time freedom. They're working more than they ever worked before. The only benefit is it's going to them, but if you can't have the time to enjoy it, what's the point? So it's great that it's very great story explaining the difference between that. It's like Robert Kiyosaki's like the different quadrants of self-employed and business owner and investor and that type of thing. It would be some bits of similarities to that too.
So not only would you recommend it for others, but it had a big impact on you and the way you
my mentality, yeah. Like, because I'm working for myself since I was 20. So it's
what's the author name?
Years. Michael Gerber, Gerber.
I'm with you, yeah. The E-Myth by Michael Gerber.
Gerber, yeah. Like I would have, when I started off myself, I would have been full on, going non-stop. But again, it's time for money and there's a limit to what you can earn. And it was great and loved and all. But at the same time, if you want to build again a business, you should be getting the time from it. Especially if you want to scale it, then you can't be fully immersed in it completely yourself. So really show that it's all based on, I think it was a cake shop example. And the person in there who thought it'd be great to take over a cake shop, ended up just working day and night, wasn't giving them the satisfaction they wanted, and then how to actually change their frame of mind around it, you know.
This is
That's
interesting.
A really good book.
Yeah, I remember I used to follow a guy called Brad Sugars on LinkedIn before I was
platform. Remember him, yeah.
They removed my account of LinkedIn for something I shared or something I commented
Nude pic or something, Carl, is it?
Not at all, Dave. If only, if only. But I had about 2,000 connections, and I put a hell of a lot of time and effort and energy into this LinkedIn profile. I've gradually started rebuilding one which has got about 100 connections now. But the Brad Sugars was the guy behind the Action Coach franchise.
Yeah, I remember him. Yeah,
and
I saw him speak a few times actually.
Really, yeah, great guy, absolute positive guy. And this idea that you're talking about, I've got some personal experience of. I was going out, I think it was the 1st of January 2017. I went to my boss about a month before. I said, I don't think I'm going to go out on my own and do what I do for you, but do it for other clients. He's like, all right, okay, good luck with that. Bye. And I'm like, right, cool. All right. So will you be one of my clients? Yeah, okay. All right. So I went out on my own and I gradually built the business up to where I was working for 2 or 3 clients and delivering huge results for them. But because I was flat out working for my clients, I only had a finite Monday to Friday, 9 to 5 during business hours where I could do what I was doing for them. And there wasn't anybody I could employ. I couldn't clone myself to do what I was doing. And I quickly realized I had no time to invest in looking for future clients. So whether I was successful or not for my client, there was still a finite time period where the work I did for them came to an end. And the next thing, it was like, hang on a minute. This is a business model that's doomed from the very get-go, because I can only be as successful as I can work and occupy certain hours or certain time in the day. And the only variable then is increasing my rates to be able to grow the business. And that's not going to work either, because I'm about delivering value for my clients. So it was an interesting lesson, I'll give you that. But after 2 years, I went back to my boss and I said, yeah, can I have my job back?
Yeah. But a good lesson.
Thankfully, they saw the value in what I did and were happy to bring me back in under that. But the business consultancy is still going, actually, as a part-time venture. I still do some sales as a service work for small business owners. But the business model is hugely flawed in that I can't grow it unless I employ people to do what I do. And nobody can do what I do because, like we said before, I'm unique in the sense that I am who I am and I am the way I am. And what I do is kind of, it's not that I'm other people can't do what I do. There's others out there that do what I do better and worse. But it was interesting that the business model was limited or restricted to one man working, say, 30, 40 hours a week.
Yeah.
Robert Kiyosaki, you mentioned there, was that Rich Dad, Poor Dad?
Yeah, he's got Cash Flow Quadrant is another book he has, and he's a game of it. So again, it's like that, self-employed versus business owner is very, very different. Like we were doing there, it's like self-employed. Business owner would have a few coaches or window cleaners or whatever it might be. They're not you, but they're doing a service. So it's like taking it away from being all about you and it becoming a service instead. So, you know, it's like if you're good at something, others won't be as good as you potentially. It could be better, it could be worse, but they're at a certain level that stands up to your service of your brand if you have people. Like when I ran gyms and stuff, like I had lots of trainers, people still want to be with just me, but I also had these options that typically would be cheaper or different or whatever, because people gravitate towards different people. But that's how I scaled it from where it was just me, I had no more hours left. Yes, you could increase your rates, but if you want to make something bigger and real business have a bigger impact, you needed other people involved. So that, you know, that's kind of what it goes into, which is really, really good. Anyone, self-employed business, anything like that, it's a really informative book. It's an eye-opener, really.
I'm sorry now, I'm rushing you along. We're watching the clock.
Okay.
So we've got E-Myth by Michael Gerber, Rich Dad Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki, one other book.
There's two others I was going to say there. Man's Search for Meaning. Viktor Frankl is an amazing book.
Yes, agreed.
Holocaust survivor. Like he's just, from a mind point of view and perspective, everything unbelievable. Everyone needs to read that book. And 7 Habits of Highly Effective People is brilliant as well. Again, it's like a manual. Steve Covey. So it's like actually he's a Coveney. I'm not, it's either Covey or Coveney. I think it's
Stephen Covey, isn't it?
Yes, it's one of those two anyway, Covey or Coveney. But that's brilliant. Again, it's like a reference. Those 7 habits, they apply and will always apply.
We'll put up, we'll do a bit of video editing there, and we'll maybe throw up to the names of the 3 or 4 books that we've mentioned there. Benefits of meditation. Do you meditate? And
I do, and it's something that I'm good at doing a lot of things. I'm good at discipline in a lot of areas of my life. Meditation was one I've struggled for so many years to do. It's one I've been aware of how important it is, but it's one I've struggled to do it and do it right and get the big benefit from it. Because again, having a busy mind, busy life, go 100 miles per hour, I've got better and better at it over time. It's one thing that everyone needs to do, you know, could do. See, there I go again, using the right word. but the benefits are massive. You know, it's part of routines, a daily routine that would be highly beneficial to anybody. I do meditate every day. I do it in the morning, sometimes do it in the evening. The way I do it is typically try clear my mind, try push away thoughts coming in, just to give myself some brain space and focus on my breathing. That's the strategy that works for me now. Everyone is different in what will work for them. Will you listen to something, don't listen to something, what you focus on. Like my use of it is to, you know, give my brain a bit of space and have a bit of peace. And again, to learn to focus on something specific, like if it's my breathing is what I typically do. Or if I had a pain in a particular part of my body, I'd focus on that area and work on eradicating it out, like nearly disperse it out through the pores of my skin. That'd be my meditation sometimes. So there's many different ways to do it, but it's something that's just beneficial to everybody.
Yeah, I'd be an advocate for the universal benefits of meditation. All right, so I've come across a few different techniques. The one we would have done most, I'm a member of the community of a Buddhist center in East Clare for the last 12, 13 years. And we do what's called Vipassana or insight meditation. But it's not so much about pushing any thoughts away. It'd be more sort of sitting with what comes up. So if you are able to light a candle, burn some incense, just have a calm and peaceful energy or vibration in the room and just sit with that. And what can come up can be, oh, what am I going to have for my dinner tonight? A memory from when I was 7 years old, when I was a child, an incident that happened with a colleague at work. It's not so much about pushing those thoughts away. It's about letting them exhaust themselves and then coming back to a focus like the breath. So in Vipassana meditation, there's usually an anchor, which can be the breath, or it can be a mantra or something, but it's not necessarily about pushing thoughts away. It's about letting them come and then whoosh, they go. So you're still coming back to or returning to this core kind of peacefulness. And And they call it mindfulness, but I suppose the idea is for it to be mindlessness, isn't it?
Yeah, no, and that's the great thing about meditation. There's many different methods and ways of doing it, and it's trying to find the one I suppose that works for you. And Vipassana, definitely, I have yet to do Vipassana stuff, but as you know, I want to do like the 10-day silent retreat Vipassana, which I'm increasingly heard from different people, like the impact is unbelievable, and it makes sense that it would do, but I suppose most mornings for people to incorporate meditation in some form into their lives. You know, it's like I was saying, for me, because it's such a busy mind, busy life, it was nearly just giving myself that space for quietness and silence and mindfulness, relaxation, whatever you want to call it. So it's kind of people finding what works for them and then develop it and morph. Like mine, I'm sure will change over time in how I will use it, but it's definitely a tool that has impacted me positively.
Very good, very good, very good. Moving along, best trip abroad and why?
Best trip abroad. There's lots of them. My most memorable and one that made a big impact on my life was I lived in Venice Beach for 4 months, Venice Beach, California, for 4 months when I was creating a home workout system over there with some videographers. One delight, I've always wanted that kind of lifestyle, by the beach, sunshine, rarely seen rain, all that kind of crap.
Is that like, I'm sorry now to be so crude, but the image I've got from what you're saying is like the song of them cruising down the road next to the beach with the was it Will Smith in the summertime, you know, with the stereo cranked up,
yeah,
and
you got the song
along
Miami, yeah, it's probably with Miami, yeah. It's not quite that.
Jazzy Jeff and
Fresh Prince.
Is it like that or not?
Santa Monica is more like that.
Okay.
So it's very interesting. You've got like literally you've got LA, you've got the city part of LA. Then you've got Santa Monica Beach. Then you got like literally a boardwalk and cycle lanes and everything all the way for miles. And it comes to a point where like this, literally, you've got Santa Monica and then you step onto Venice Beach. Now, Venice Beach is very bohemian, different. First time there, especially if you've not been exposed to kind of very different kind of people. It's kind of like, what the hell? This is a strange kind of place. Like loads of homeless people, very, as I said, bohemian, people dressed in all kinds of, as we'd consider, weird ways, but they're just being authentic to themselves, which is what should happen. And just different. The vibe in both places is very different. The vibe of Santa Monica would be very much like you're saying, like the Will Smith song, like the image you'd have of Miami, that type of thing. Venice Beach, I said, it's just chilled, relaxed, everyone's just being themselves. It's a bohemian, that type of way. And like the homeless, like there's loads of homeless in their little section. But I tell you this, if you offered them like money to have, let's say, a normal life, they wouldn't even take it. They have their community, they're happy out, it's sunny all year round. You know, so while they're homeless, they actually have a belonging, a sense of belonging. It's a
lifestyle choice.
Exactly. It's very interesting to see, because I said they have more sense of belonging than most of conventional society. Most conventional society is just built around fakeness, and they're actually alone.
Interesting.
But I remember it because of one, it was a first proper taste of the lifestyle that I'd always kind of said I would like to have. I met amazing people through the work I was doing there anyway. It was just so great to be on my doorstep, go onto the beach, go swimming, whatever else it might be. And that was a big reason why I ended up going to live in Lanzarote for 6 years, because that was the taste, that lifestyle. So once I had that taste, that was about 2010, I think it was, or 11. I decided, look, I'm going to make this a reality. This is where I'm going to live. Now, unfortunately, couldn't make California, but because of various reasons at the time, in terms of getting in, was near impossible. But that's where Lanzarote then became my second choice to go.
California's huge, Dave.
Yeah, but the problem was getting into America. It was either marry an American, have $1 million in the bank. This is a choice. So I got a U.S. attorney to try to get a way of getting in.
Both.
Or our third option was set up a company with 10 employees from day one. So it was like, right, none of them are happening. And he says, well, if you're not doing any of those three, then you have no hope in hell, and that's it. So
interesting.
On to plan B.
So moving on again. Oh, sorry. Did you ever get to see the redwoods? One of my meditation teachers was from California. I think there's a huge part. There's there's the redwoods. They're like trees. They're so huge. You could literally drive
I've heard of them.
Through them.
Yeah. I don't think I've seen them, but I'm
nothing else on earth.
I'm aware of them, but I don't think I saw them now.
Current affairs. We touched briefly on this before we started. The truckers in Canada, the veil lifting on the deception in the media. What do you make of what's going on at the moment? Not
lifting by the media anyway, but the lifting of the reality of what the media tells us. I feel intensely proud of everyone who's taken part in what's going on in Canada right now. I just wish it would happen in more places around the world, especially in Ireland, where it's like permanent fucking Rip Van Winkle sleep or something. But when I saw a particular video, whenever it was early on in it, and it was showing the truckers what they'd planned, showing them and their journey on the first day. I think it took them 5 days or something to get to where they were going, Ottawa. And then what really struck me was the amount of people who were out supporting them along the way, along every bridge, along every road. It's like it was the first time I felt proper hope that something could happen against what's been going on for the last few years. Because up to that point, it's like, look, there's going to be dual realities here. There's a reality that the media and the governments tell us that most people are living in and will continue to live in. And then there's a reality that people who are more clued into actual reality will create for themselves. This is the first time when I saw that video and the convoy and the people along the way, it actually gave me hope that, look, this could spark people around the world to start doing it. And it is happening in different countries. Some countries like Finland did a very big one recently. I know many countries in Europe are doing them at the moment, or they had little ones, they're going to make big ones. It's very interesting how it's unfolding and what the Canadian government are doing now. And the thing they put out now was pretty much like the freezing bank account is insane if you've donated $25.
But you see, it's like if the Canadian people were living under the illusion that they were in a parliamentary democracy, which they might have quite rightly thought they were, because they see Parliament and they see, parliamentarians.
Yeah.
But what they're living in is effectively a dictatorship. And if they're using what's currently happening to enact martial law, the army can basically come in and remove the truckers and the trucks. My feeling is they'll probably shake hands. The people in the army and the people in the police have friends and relatives that are supporting the movement against this push for mandatory so-called vaccinations. I mean, surely freedom of choice and freedom of bodily integrity is at the cornerstone of the founding principles of any republic, liberty, fraternity. If we do have respect for ourselves and we have respect for others, surely we're not going to go into a place where we say what others must or mustn't do. And I see there's various arguments for and against it, but when you look at what's been happening over the last few years, going back to a David Icke book I read over a decade ago, and seeing the machinations and the fallout of the New World Order, the World Economic Forum, the Bilderbergers, the Skull and Bones, the Trilateral Commission. There seems to be a lot of these, what are called NGOs. They're non-governmental organizations run by unelected people, backed by huge amounts of money. And guess what? They don't care about you. They don't care about me. They're serving another agenda. And people are waking up to what's going on. They're saying, well, hang on. We were at a protest that was peaceful and there was tens of thousands of people. On the news, they said there was hardly anybody there and it was a violent protest. But I was there. I know the media is lying. So why are people still watching the television and listening to the radio? Why don't they turn it off? Why are people still buying and reading newspapers when it's been proven that what's being put out there isn't the truth?
Yeah, like it's truly mind-blowing. And as someone who has such a huge interest in like psychology, human behavior, whatever, I've tried the last 2 years to try to find a proper reason. I know look, there's things put out there. Look, it's mass formation psychosis. Yes, that's true. Cognitive dissonance.
That's an interesting phrase. That was your man on the Joe Rogan podcast, right?
Yeah.
I'd never heard of that before. Mass formation psychosis.
Yeah, I'd heard of it before, right? But the thing is, I still, like, despite these are it's like a diagnosis, but there's still, for me, it's still no justification, and people still going by what they're being told when there's so much evidence against it, still believing everything when there's so much evidence against it. Most importantly, denying all the evidence that's there, which is incredible.
And then saying trust the science or some other soundbite that they've been programmed.
That's the thing that drives me mad, because there's diagnosis, as a mass formation psychosis, whatever you can say. That's why it's happening. Yes, that's why it's happening, but everyone's got a fucking brain, some kind of brain anyway. Yeah, surely it's switched on enough to realize that what's going on, especially this stage when so much has been going on. Like, it's so easy to find this information. Like, the media is silent and the truckers and all that, but if you're on social media at all, you have to come across something. If you look at one thing, you can see more. You can see what's going on. You can see the truth. You can see it's peaceful. Like, it's quite amazing in Canada that it has remained peaceful. Like, they sent in SWAT teams.
There's a huge sense of goodwill there, isn't there? I've seen footage on LinkedIn of all platforms, as well as Instagram, where there's huge goodwill among, I've seen police hugging the protesters. I've seen police being unkind and hassling some as well.
Yeah.
But there seems to be huge goodwill amongst the people towards the movement there. You mentioned a couple of things there.
There's two things on that actually, Carl, just while I was thinking before I forget. Like the media, the only thing it has put out there about the whole trucker thing, which is like they've acted as if it's not even existing. But the one thing they did put out early enough was that, look, if you support this trucker thing, that's just a load of white supremacists. So if you're supporting it, you're supporting white supremacists and racists. Well, that's a hell of a big collection of white supremacists and racists. There's a couple of 100,000, if not a million there.
I saw a guy with a placard. He was holding up a placard saying white supremacist, and he was Indian and he had a turban on.
Yeah.
It was
every demographic there.
It was one of those pictures where the picture speaks louder than the words,
Exactly.
It was hugely.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the other thing that you touched on there in terms of, the police or whatever, shaking hands or whatever, like I've said this for the last few years, it's going to get to that point. Like at the end of the day in history, violence has ended up happening in most situations to overthrow bad people or whatever it might be, or bad situations. But it's going to come down to a point where you've got civilians against the government's puppets, which is the army and the police. And it's going to come down to how many of those army and police have any kind of integrity, have any kind of heart, relate to the people who are having peaceful protests. So hopefully the masses of them will put down their weapons or helmets, whatever. You're going to have a certain percentage of them are absolute psychos who are going to absolutely love it. And this is what they've nearly been waiting for. Just hopefully the masses will be the ones who will join the people, and then it's over. Because that's the government's army. And if they don't do what they want, then there's no way it can be enforced. People only aren't doing things because of fear of enforcement. If they see can't be forced to do this, then it's over.
Yeah, it's interesting. I shared something on Facebook where I'm connected with people all over the world. And one of my friends in Canada was like, oh, they just need to get back to work and stop all this nonsense.
I saw that, yeah. I saw
and
that.
I'm like, hang on a second. Like, these people were told they can't work unless they agree to have an experimental chemical injected into them, not once, but maybe twice or three times. And those people are saying, no, a bit like Novak Djokovic, I would rather sacrifice my opportunity to work than be instructed that I have to take part in these experimental trials with a chemical injection, the consequences of which are unknown. But from what we've seen on alternative media sources, which we could maybe trust more than the mainstream ones, which have been proven to lie and not reveal the truth time and time again, it would appear that the number of people that are waking up to what's going on is growing, and the mass non-compliance and the mass disobedience is demonstrating where the power lies, which is with the people.
Of course, there's more of us that's saying we'll go. So this is where if just enough people say no, it's game over. And that's the thing.
So it's easy to get a
fear is put on.
Someone like who's a WEF stooge. Like, I see, who's that young girl that they trot out every now and again? Greta something or other.
Oh, Thornburg.
Yeah, and they trot her out and give her a script or something. And it's like there's plenty of people like that you can get who maybe even are coming into it from a well-meaning point of view. But yeah, I mean, surely people have had enough. And they're saying you've got rising food prices, rising fuel prices.
Everything's going up. Everything.
Our way of life
getting harder and harder.
is under attack, and there is a movement there to oppress and suppress freedom of travel and freedom of speech. It's out in the open. There's no going back from this.
Yeah.
The hand has been revealed.
Yeah. So like it's up to the masses to kind of wake up and stand up for their freedoms, and especially for future generations. Like this is where people have a responsibility in how they act right now, just like how they've acted the last 2 years. But it's not only impacting their lives, it's impacting future generations. And if you've got kids or grandkids or will have at some stage, that should be enough spark for you to get into action. That's what I look at it. Okay.
I'm conscious of the time now because we're running out. I'm going to a couple more things and then we'll quickly whiz through another quick fire 60-second round of questions for you. Before we do, I see a lot of your social media contents because I follow you on the different channels, and you put up a lot of posts. I used to mock a friend of mine who used to put a picture of his dinner on Facebook. And I used to say, can you put a picture of your breakfast and your lunch as well? Taking the mickey. I can't do that to you because you do. You put your breakfast and your lunch and your dinner
everything up. Yeah.
So
like
I know. Hold on. Let me follow this through. So I was being tongue in cheek with him, and that was years ago. But I see where you're coming from. What you're doing is you're showing people how to cook food from a lifestyle choice of being a vegan or a vegetarian, right? Because there's a lot of people going to say, well, I'd like to be a vegetarian, but I don't know how, right? Or I was just reared eating meat and it's just part of what I do every day. And so people might say, well, like I flirted with vegetarianism and just ended up making crappy pasta, the same thing for 2 weeks, and then gave up because I didn't have the skill set to know to cook something healthy, that was nutritional, that was tasty, and that was a valuable alternative. So my question is, how on earth did you get into posting your breakfast, lunch, and dinner on social media every day?
Yeah.
And why?
It's crazy. Like, it is crazy that is a thing right now. So there'll be two things. One of the mad side of it is, I remember even saying to my son, like, maybe it's about a year or two ago, like, as kind of my profile is growing, people were following me and following my lifestyle, which is what I share. I share my life, my lifestyle, and all, like I said, as being a role model. And I saw, again, people sometimes put up about food. And I said, sure, I'll do that too. It's no harm showing people. But I remember saying to my son, isn't this insane that work is me taking a photo of 2 slices of toast with a bit of peanut butter on it? Like, isn't that just crazy and a reflection of the way the world is right now? Because people are so curious and interested about everything about everybody else in a negative way. It's like the Kardashian type idea, you know, the reality TV idea. That's the kind of negative side of it. But that's why I said to him, like, it's crazy that I can put this up and this gets a reaction. So that'd be like something I do as part of work, but it's mental. The other side then is like what you were touching on there. By me, again, like, go back to being authentic. Look, this is who I am. This is what I do. This is how I live. Like it or lump it, this is how I live, or whatever. It's showing people, again, what I'm doing, that I'm living true to what I'm saying and my values and all that. I prioritize my health and well-being as I preach. And also, like you said, it shows people, actually, Jesus, that looks pretty damn tasty. That looks pretty nice. That looks very colorful. That doesn't look very boring or tasteless. So it's giving people that sense that actually it doesn't have to be. And I get quite a good reaction to most of those posts. And I get a lot of people asking for recipes, which I didn't share. Then they send me pictures of when they made it. So it has sort of purpose of improving their lifestyle, which improves their health and so on. That's good. Like a very good benefit of it. But it is still insane that we're living in a world where people are actually interested in, you had a slice of toast and peanut butter.
Well, what would you say to someone, like, I remember having problems with my tummy, my gut bio was the focus, and I consulted one of the gents in the MenScape group, actually, the excellent Richard Rocker, went to his clinic in Ennis, and he put me on what was called the Paleo Diets, which was like, say, going back to caveman times when we didn't have processed food. Anything in a packet or a box is a no-no, and all I was eating was purely meat, veg, and fruit, and I allowed myself every now and again a little nibble of some dark chocolate, which is my little treat there, and 70% minimum. What would you say to someone that says you need animal fats, or the body, the human digestive system is adapted to eating meat? Is there a moral or a virtue-based standpoint for vegetarianism, and what led you into making that choice?
It's a bit of a mixture. Like, the way the world is run and the way farming and all that side of things is done, there's like an ethical, moral choice to a degree for sure. From the health side of things, again, the way things are done. Like, for instance, if you had a cow out your back garden there and you raise it and grass fed and all that, and raise it so no chemicals, growth hormones, antibiotics, unless they were necessary because he actually got sick, versus being sick because of being in such a crowded environment and all the disease and viruses that are around him.
You'd be okay with that?
I'd be pretty okay. I can understand that. It's still like, our systems are not designed to digest in terms of our intestines, length, and also the hydrochloric acid level in our stomach. But it doesn't mean that we can't. Like, our bodies are amazing. Our bodies will adapt to things whether they're good for us or bad for us. The problem for people is, and why people need to look more and more towards plant-based, is more so on the fact that what people are consuming when they're consuming animal products is not healthy at all, because there's so much growth hormone, so many antibiotics, so many other kind of chemicals and stuff. Like, they're pumping the animals, making
it's not the diet of the caveman, in other words.
Yeah, if you go back like 100 years even, that meat they're eating then, which they raised on the land, then they killed it and they ate it. They didn't have all these diseases that are prevalent in the world right now. People get disease because of what they're eating. So that's one thing. The type of meat, the type of animal protein or fat or whatever is literally infected. And also because of the method of even the whole killing process in factory farms and abattoirs, like the amount of cortisol those animals release in their body would be unbelievable. And then we're taking on that cortisol and trauma and so on then as well. So all that negative energy we're taking in as well. So it's the overall picture of what we're taking in from them is so bad for our health. So when people come to me and they don't really give a toss about animals per se, some animals. I say, look,
most people do though. Most people are. Oh yeah, most people do. Most people are kind.
When you think about it, when you think about it, and which a lot are unconsciously just they can't relate what's on their plate to the fact that like they're passing a farm. Let's say they're on a walk. Oh, look, the lovely little lamb jumping around. He's so bloody cute. Half an hour later, eating lamb for dinner. They have a total disconnect. That type of way.
Morrissey said that. I saw a great interview with Morrissey on the TV there, going back maybe, I don't know, long time ago. He basically said, have you noticed how they have like mince with lamb or cranberry sauce with turkey or for every meat there was like a combination herb, pork and apple, beef and horseradish. It was basically to take away from the flavor that you're eating dead flesh.
Exactly.
I remember sitting there thinking, listening to
you eat them on their own, they don't taste good. Like I used to love Christmas dinner and turkey, but no, I like the stuffing with the turkey. I used to love steak every Sunday. I had steak dinner every Sunday. There's a gravy on the steak. You have steak on its own dry.
Black pepper sauce.
Chicken. If you have any of the meats on their own, they're terrible. It's what you put with it that matters, that makes it taste nice. Like the other thing as well is, in terms of it being natural for us to eat meat, if it was natural, we would nearly salivate as we walk past any farm or drive past any farm and see an animal. It's not our instinct. Would you take like a tiger or a cheetah, any of these kind of predatory animals who literally have the teeth for it and the digestive systems? They want to kill that thing. That's their food. That's their instinct. That's their gut, like GPS. We don't have that. We see it, lovely animal or whatever, and then we end up having it in their place. So we have, again, there's that disconnect. There isn't that automatic instinct. Now, does that mean at the same time someone eats meat, they're going to die? No. Like this is the disconnect between people who go being vegan to, again, versus animal eaters. Like it becomes, either or a versus, which is ridiculous. This is why, if you look at the proper reasons as to why you maybe could look at the option of moving that direction. And everyone's different. Everyone's body is different too.
It's what works for you. So for anyone that's interested, they can contact you on your website. If anyone is thinking about pursuing a vegetarian lifestyle, they can get in touch with you and you can offer some advice to them for nutrition.
Even just moving that direction. Like I always say to people, like, sometimes people come and go, I watched this documentary or something, I saw something you said or a video, I want to go vegan. I always say, don't go vegan overnight. It rarely works in terms of immediate changes. For the tiny minority, it might. For masses, it won't. Move that direction. Have a meat-free day. Have a meat-free meal. Try an alternative milk. Do something in the right direction. And like I said, look from the health perspective. Like for me personally, you said about, what made me go that way. For me, it ended up being performance. My performance improved in my triathlon and my cycling and running and all. Injury prevention. That was my selfish reason for going vegan initially. Over time, then it became more about health. Then it became about the animals, even though I've always loved animals, but I was living unconsciously around animals, let's say. Loved them, but had that disconnect. And then a bit more then towards planet, that type of stuff too. So it's kind of, it started from a selfish reason and built up. Everyone typically goes in for one reason or another.
It always struck me as curious that you could grow up in a country like Japan or Korea and it'd be normal to eat an octopus or a dog or monkey brain or, and then over here, we'd be horrified by that, but yet we'd eat a pig or sausages or something.
Yeah. That's the thing I say to people.
So arbitrary, isn't it?
They'd be horrified by us eating a cow or whatever we might eat. We're horrified by them eating it. Look, at the same time, at the end of the day, it's a being. We're eating a being. That's it. Same as a cannibal. They're eating a being as well.
So, right, I'm conscious now that we need to wrap up. We've gone over a little.
Sure, yeah.
With it being the first one, we're on a learning curve here, and it's largely down to me because I'm terrible at timekeeping. So my apologies. For delaying.
Once there's any value added, that's all that matters anyway.
We're going to go into a 1-minute quick fire round. Instead of yes or no, it's going to be either or.
Okay.
So you're just required to state your preference, and it can be whatever comes into your head or otherwise. Okay, are you ready?
Fire.
Aldi or Lidl?
Lidl.
Pizza or Chinese?
Pizza.
Blonde or brunette?
Blonde.
Red or blue?
Red or blue what? Colour? Just red.
Yellow or green?
Green.
Philosophy or psychology?
Psychology.
Brazil or Argentina?
Argentina.
Onions or carrots?
Onions.
Seaweed or cabbage?
Cabbage.
Friday or Sunday?
Hard one. Sunday.
Roses or tulips?
Roses.
Salt or pepper?
Pepper.
Tennis or cricket?
Tennis.
Fire or water?
Water.
Earth or air?
Earth or air? Go for air.
Sun or moon?
Sun.
Emerald or ruby?
Emerald.
Silver or gold?
Gold.
Manchester or Liverpool?
Liverpool.
Hurling or rugby?
Hurling.
Day or night?
Day.
Brown or pink?
Maybe more pink, I'd say.
Spots or stripes?
What's the stripes?
Kerry or Dublin?
Kerry.
Sunrise or sunset?
Hard one. Sunset.
England or Germany?
England.
Scotland or Wales?
Wales.
Mother Teresa or Gandhi?
Gandhi.
Buddhism or Catholicism?
Buddhism.
Gardening or the gym?
The gym.
Boccherini or Echo and the Bunnymen?
Boccherini or what?
Boccherini or Echo and the Bunnymen?
I'm actually not sure which of those are.
House or techno?
Techno.
TV or radio?
Neither really. Radio.
Spain or France?
Yeah, I'll go Spain.
Humans or plants?
Humans or plants, depends on what rounds. Let's give the humans a go.
Cats or dogs?
Dogs.
And finally, last one, beach or forest?
Beach.
So thank you, Dave Sheahan, for being the first guest on the MenScape podcast. It's
My
been a
pleasure.
pleasure to have you, and thanks for giving us an insight into who you are and what you do. We'll put it out in the MenScape group and maybe on a couple of social media channels, and we'll see if we can get you some business. Hopefully the phone will be ringing, or people will be going to your website and looking for some advice on nutrition, or you're training up for a triathlon, you say?
Yeah, an Ironman. So I've been doing Olympic distance triathlon for the last, whatever it is, 8 years or so. So now I'm going on to Ironman distance.
Tell us a bit about that, so before we wrap up.
So in Ironman distance, you do 3.8 kilometer swim, followed by
Yeah.
180 kilometer cycle, followed by a marathon. So
Okay.
it's a long event. And
That's
my goal
some
is
bit
to
of
qualify
training.
for World Championships. Yeah, my goal is to qualify for the World Championships, Kona, Hawaii. But you have to, like, if you're not a professional, they have a certain number of places for non-professionals, let's say normal people. You have to reach a certain time, like a fast speed. So I have to get under 10 hours, which is like fast. The pros would do it in like 8.5 to.
So
just
10
under
hours
9.
to do what?
All of
Remind
it.
me again.
3.8 kilometer swim.
3.8 kilometers. Is that in the sea?
Yeah.
How far?
180.
How far have you done 3.8 kilometers in what sort of time at the moment?
That distance I haven't done yet.
Okay.
We'll have to do it in about an hour. That'll be kind of time span. So an hour for that. 180 kilometer cycling about 6 hours I'd need, and then a marathon in 3 hours.
I imagine there's plenty of roads you can practice the cycling on in Ireland, but where would you go do the swimming training?
Yeah, the swimming, I don't like swimming pools, so I'll have to be out in the sea. That's why where I've moved to now, the remote area I've moved to, it's near a pier where the sea is, so I'll be using that now as my swimming. So I'll be starting that soon. Just trying to brave the cold.
Yeah.
I hate wearing wetsuits, so I prefer just going in the shorts and that's it. I hate putting on wetsuits apart from races. I never train with a wetsuit. So I'd be getting the full brunt of the cold water.
Wow. So best of luck with the Ironman training, and thanks again for joining us. Remind the viewers there how they can find you and where they can find you.
Sure, yeah. Well, thanks for having me, Carl. It's a pleasure, especially the first one. Hope we added a lot of value or some nuggets to people. If anyone wants to contact me, just search for my name on any social media. Just remember, Sheahan is Sheahan, and my website's davesheahanhighperformance.com.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Dave.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Mind yourself, and God bless.
MenScape, the podcast with Carl.J. Ashley.